It's always showtime at BetMGM Sports. You can make your first bet risk-free up to $1,000 when you sign up with the code Sherdog. Don't let another game day go by without having the ultimate sports betting app in the palm of your hand. Discover non-stop excitement with BetMGM's state-of-the-art technology and dozens of betting options, including live wagers, props, parlays, and much more. No matter what your favorite sport is or how you like to wager, find out why there's nothing like getting a W at the king of sportsbooks. Use the code Sherdog and make your first bet risk-free up to $1,000. Download the BetMGM app and sign up today. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 years of age or older to wager. Arizona, Colorado, Washington, D.C., Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, New Jersey, Nevada, New York, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, or Wyoming only. New customer offer. All promotions are subject to qualification and eligibility requirements. Rewards issued as non-withdrawable free bets or site credit. Free bets expire in 7 days from issuance. Excludes Michigan disassociated persons. Please gamble responsibly. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP in Arizona, 1-800-522-4700 in Colorado, Washington, D.C., Louisiana, Nevada, Wyoming, and Virginia. Call 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help. In Michigan, 1-800-GAMBLER. In Illinois, Indiana, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, or 1-800-BETS-OFF in Iowa. In New York, call 8778-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. In Tennessee, call the Red Line at 800-889-9789. In Mississippi, call 1-888-777-9696. Sports betting is void where prohibited. Promotional offers not available in Nevada. What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show with me, Sean Sheehan, here on Sherdog.com. And today we're going to be looking at my top 5 bets for the weekend in the world of mixed martial arts. There's a big UFC card on this weekend. Bellator around these parts, they're over in London across the water from me with an interim title fight on the line there. So a pretty good weekend for the world of betting, and I'm looking forward to getting into it and giving you my top 5 bets for this weekend. As always, please bet responsibly. Don't bet more than you can, and even bet a little bit less than that. And be very responsible with that, as always. And please always keep that in mind. A quick look back at last week was a pretty good week for the betting show. We had Oliveira to win inside the distance of plus 100. That cashed, obviously, with his massive win there. Even though he did miss weight and all, he looked bad on the scale and it was one of those. So I stuck by it and I went through. Evelandu won over Bellator in Paris at plus 145. As did even Peter Nidielski at plus 120. So 3 plus money bets there. One that was pretty good. I went for Chandler by decision. That obviously didn't win. He ended up kicking the head off Tony Ferguson, and he did it very, very well. And obviously the flyer, Namunis by TKO KO. She'd have to land a punch before she could win by TKO KO, I'm afraid. So I'm blaming Rose Namunis on that one. You know, we might as well. I'm not blaming myself. I'll take the blame off myself on that one. So 3 out of 5, not bad. 3 plus money bets. I think if you bet on all of them last week, you've probably made your money back. So I'm happy enough with last week. And we will get into this week and look at some of the fights and some of the bets as well. I'm actually excited about a few of the fights this week, and I've gone for this week. Usually I go for the very, very top, the main event, and I have a couple from at least one of the main events anyway. And it's usually the top fights I pick from, but I'm picking from some of the undercard fights this week, doing it a little bit differently. And I went back and I watched a good bit of tape and stuff, and I'm happy enough with the bets. But I'm also, even aside from the bets for a second, there are some very good undercard fights this weekend, and one I'm going to start with one which I'm kind of most looking forward to, honestly. And I've just gone and watched fights from Viviane Araujo and Andrea Lee, and now I had my bet written down for this, and I was going for Andrea Lee. I kind of picked her out as my winner, and I was like, let's go and watch another bit of tape and let's kind of make sure. And I've backed out of it a little bit. So Andrea Lee is minus 120 and Araujo is plus 100. And I'm like, I don't know. I would rather if that line was exactly the same, maybe. Or even if she was, Andrea Lee was a bit of an underdog to go for it first. Because I'm not sure. So what I have gone for, I've switched it up. And my guy Jedi Goodman will probably give out to me. But I'm actually going for the under here. 2.5 rounds. And that's plus 240. Right? And there's a couple of reasons I'm going for this in the Lee Araujo. And now you could look at their records and they've gone to a decision an awful lot recently. You know, both of them. If you look at Araujo, she obviously fought Caitlin Jukagan, who always goes to a decision, but her 4 fights before that have all gone to a decision as well. You know, she got 3 or 4 or 5 even stoppages in a row before that. So she is one of those fighters who has the ability to do both. I was just watching one of the fights and they were kind of saying, she's changed from a jiu-jitsu practitioner to a striker, and that can kind of happen as well when you go with that. So Andrea Lee, then she had a streak of 6 decisions in a row, but her last 2 have finished inside the distance. One was a corner stoppage, and the other, as we know, the submission of Antonina even Shevchenko. So look, I will say with a bit of like kind of make up your own mind on this one, but I'm going for them inside the distance, right? And okay, I have 2 reasons for that. First one, I really believe in Andrea Lee. I think she's a very good fighter. I think she'll fight for a title over the next couple of years. Now, as I said at the start of this, I kind of backed out and picking her to win this because I think Araujo is very good as well. But I believe Lee has improved an awful lot over the years. I like her striking style. I think she's like Caitlin Jukagan, but like a little bit better, hits a little bit harder, and is improving at a rate as well. Whereas Jukagan is, probably the 3rd or 4th best woman in the world at that division, but has been that and the same level for probably 4 or 5 years now. Now it's a very, very, very good level for that division, and she's proven herself. She beat Araujo. She's proven herself there. But I think imagine if Jukagan had a little bit more power and maybe a little bit more finishing ability, and maybe was on her way up rather than maybe in her prime. That's what I think Andrea Lee is. Now I might be wrong, and she's lost 3 or 4 fights in a row previous to this in the UFC and things, but I really think she has turned the corner. I think she's a very, very good fighter, and we'll put all of that together. I think Araujo is very, very good as well. She hits hard, as I said, she's a jiu-jitsu practitioner as well, so if the fight does go to the ground, she can end it there. It doesn't have to be just a KO or anything like that. And she throws with reckless abandon, right? And a big reason why you would go for someone to win under 2.5 rounds that throws at reckless abandon is they'll either get that knockout when they throw at reckless abandon, or they will get very, very, very tired. And if you do get very, very, very tired and you're fighting Andrea Lee, that's not a good place to be, because Andrea Lee will up that pace. She will keep going. We've seen her before. Look, I wouldn't say she's Cain Velasquez in her prime or anything with cardio, but she has good cardio. She keeps going into the 3rd round, and I think Araujo will fade at kind of the midpoint of the fight. And I also think, as opposed to the Jukagan fight, where at times Jukagan was kind of letting her maybe wear herself out a little bit, or Araujo was maybe just on top, I think Andrea Lee will attack her at the same time as Araujo is attacking, if you get me. That could also lead to Andrea Lee getting knocked out or Araujo getting knocked out. But I think it'll also lead to Araujo having to up her output in terms of what she's doing if it's kind of just a one-sided fight. And I actually think that'll make her get tired quicker. So if, let's say, she gets to the 2 or 3 minute point of the 2nd round, she's getting very tired, Andrea Lee starts up and up and up. But could she finish that early in the 3rd or maybe late in the 2nd? I think so. Could there be a big knockout at the start of the fight from either person? I think so. Could Araujo submit her? I think so. I think there's just so many ways this fight can end. Now, watch it go to a decision. But that's the logic in my head. My logic isn't always correct, as I know people listening to this podcast often know when they're betting it. But I like that logic. I think, look, we've seen it. There's been lots of, women's fights. I think my guy Jedi Goodman has been following it. The over is there an awful lot in the fights, and I think it's a lot of that is because the level is getting a lot better. You know, we see in men's fights as well, the amount of decisions are getting more and more and more all the time. But I think this is one of those fights that maybe the stylistic matchup will actually cause it to end. So I think someone will get finished. That's my prediction, and I'm going for the under. Now, maybe I should have gone for it to finish inside the distance. That would have been a little bit less of a price, but I'm going for this. The price, let me get it for you again. Here it is plus 240. So plus 240 on that one, and I think that's a very good price for that fight to go to decision. Right. I'll go to my second UFC bet here, and then I'll pop to my two. I have two from Bellator, and then I have one as well, the FLIERs from the UFC as well. I'm going for Davey Grant against Louis Smolka to win here. Grant to win by decision. He is plus 275. Davey Grant is a very, very good fighter. He has been around the scene now for a long time. He's 11-6 in his career, and I feel like that doesn't do justice to how good Davey Grant actually is. He's lost the last couple, and I'm talking about this fight to go to decision as well. There was a split decision to Adrian Yanez, and Yanez's decision against Marlon Cheeto Vera, and we saw how good Vera was last time out. And this was less than a year ago, so and that wasn't a blowaway fight by any means. At times it was, but I like Davey Grant an awful lot. I think that left hook that he's landed a few times in his fights is just a very, very good weapon. He's a very good all-around fighter. Even, if someone tries to get the fight to the ground with him, I think he's able to survive on the bottom. He's lost a couple of times by a submission, all right, but they were back. He lost to Manny Bermudez and Damian Stasiak, I suppose, but they were a good while ago now at this stage. And that's probably where Louis Smolka will be looking to catch him. Whereas Smolka, he's headline cards. He's been in Ireland here headlining cards. He lost his last one to Vince Morales, and he's kind of won and lost every kind of second one over his most recent stint, I suppose, in the UFC. Now, the big issue with this one, I suppose, and it going to decision, lots of Smolka's fights don't go to decision. It's usually stoppages for him. In fact, it's a good few years since he's had one go to a decision. I just think Davey Grant, again, it's down to the matchup for me here. I think Davey is very, very tough. I think he will survive if he's put in any bad positions against Smolka. I think he will maybe stop himself from getting submitted. I don't think he's going to get knocked out by Smolka, but I also think Smolka, he has been knocked out obviously a good few times now, and he's been choked out and things as well. I don't think Davey will be choking him, or maybe I'm wrong now, maybe we'll end up choking him out. But I also think Smolka, I think Davey's kind of landed that left hand now so many times that people know about it. And Smolka, if he's not looking to stay away from that, I don't know what he'll be looking for. But I do think Davey Grant will box him up. I think that's how the fight will be won. I think Grant will land lots of shots. I think Smolka will probably get hurt a couple of times throughout it, but he's a tough man as well, and I think he'll probably come through it, and I think the fight will go long, and I think it'll go to a decision. So that's the way I think it'll go. I think Davey Grant will win. I could see Smolka maybe pulling guard or getting a couple of takedowns, but I like Grant here in this one, and I like him to win by decision at plus 275. It's a big price bet. It is a big price bet. I won't sugarcoat it or anything like that. Maybe it's one of those ones that maybe it's half a FLIER bet. Maybe it's one of those. So yeah, I'll go for that one. Right. Next bet here over in Bellator. I'm going for Fabian Edwards to beat Lyoto Machida in the co-main event. I said I went for one in the main event. Actually, it's the co-main event. Sorry, my apologies. We'll talk about the main event in the roundup towards the end. Do you know what? This is one of these bets that I was kind of looking at. I'm like, will I give this bet? Will I actually give this bet? But I am. I believe in Fabian Edwards. I've known of Fabian Edwards because my partner over in the Severe MMA podcast, Graham, has talked about him. He saw him as an amateur, and he's like, this guy is going to be the next guy. I think he was 10-0 as an amateur, submitting guys, knocking guys out. And it feels like in his pro career, he's just kind of taken a step back in terms of maybe the wildness and everything like that. But I still believe in Fabian Edwards. I really do still believe in him. He's only let me just look here, 11 fights into his career, and only had 10 amateur fights as well. That's not all that much experience. And he's fought some very, very good guys as well, Austin Vanderford and Casella Van Steenis and others as well. And coming into this fight against Lyoto Machida, it is a massive fight for him because, look, if you fight Lyoto Machida, former UFC champion, it's going to be a massive fight. If you're 11 fights into your career, a young up-and-coming guy like Fabian Edwards, even though, he's heading for 30 now, but still, in this sport, that can be young. But I think it means a little bit more to Fabian Edwards in terms of his performance here. And when I say mean to him, I means in terms of his standing in division and his future as a fighter is a weird way to say it. But I think this fight will either be the making of Fabian Edwards, or it will force him to be the making of himself in future fights. Because, look, we know the way Lyoto Machida fights. Very good defensively on the outside, tries to come in with fast movements and catch you inside and then get all the way back out. We've seen Lyoto over the last while, not what he used to be, not as fast. How could he be? He's in his 40s now, he probably is. You couldn't expect anyone to be as fast and as good as Lyoto Machida once was. And he's not that. But what he can still do is he can still move in, he can still move out, and he can still make it very hard for you to hit him while he hits you. I think we could all probably agree with that. Now, maybe an issue here is his cardio. Can he go 5 rounds? Can he keep that up over 5 rounds, even if there isn't much coming back? Let's say, and this is not against Fabian, this is against anyone. That might be an issue for Lyoto, and I think it could be an issue here. I think the issue for Fabian is, when you're fighting someone like Lyoto Machida, you have to let your hands go. You have to make Lyoto Machida pay when he comes in. You have to be careful against him and not get knocked out, but you also can't just allow him to come in, either hit, not hit, and then get back out. Because whether Lyoto's hitting or he's not hitting, if you're not hitting him, then you're not winning. And it might only take him to land one shot from every 3 or 4 attacks, and he's winning that fight if you land nothing, as we saw with Rose Namajunas and Carlos Esparza at the weekend. And Fabian cannot let that happen in this fight. He's let it happen in past fights. I think he'd probably admit that himself. I think Fabian is a very smart, a very intelligent fighter, really skilled, very good all around, but I think he might be too smart and too intelligent for his own good. Sometimes we forget. I talked about this with Aaron Pico before. This is a violent game, and sometimes you have to bring out a bit of that violence. Sometimes you have to let these hands go. Sometimes you have to let the shots go. And if you're Fabian Edwards, you're in Fabian Edwards' corner and you're fighting Lyoto Machida at this age, you have to do that. You have to. Because if he's not as fast as he once was, then you should back yourself to land those big shots against Lyoto Machida in that pocket when he comes inside, knowing that you have more power than him, you can hurt him, and maybe he can't hit you as nominally maybe as he once could. But that is the key to this fight and the key to Fabian Edwards' career going forward. Honestly, I think that he hasn't been able to let his hands go enough. And I think that a lot of that is down to his game planning. And a lot of that is down to sticking to what he wants to do in the fight. I think Fabian needs to get wild. Honestly. Now, I've said it, and maybe it's a bad comparison or whatever, but and maybe it's an unfair thing to say, but I think Fabian tries to fight too much like Leon. And maybe not it's him, not necessarily him, but maybe the team and everything want to have him fighting like Leon. He's a different fighter to Leon. He needs to be fighting in a different way. I think he is a bigger puncher than Leon. I think he's a better finisher than Leon. I think he's a better athlete than Leon as well. I think he can do better things. Honestly, I think Fabian Edwards is a better fighter than Leon Edwards. Now, that'll probably get me killed by a lot of people, but I think he has the ability to be. Now, is he at the moment? No. But does he have the ability to rise to that level? Yes, I think he does. Now, that's the opinion of someone who's been watching him since he was an amateur. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it'll never happen. And, there's been lots of lads I've seen coming through from the amateurs and they've been very good and it hasn't happened for him, and maybe Fabian Edwards will be one of them. But in this fight, he needs to show it. And if he can show it in this fight, I actually think it's a fight that could bring a little bit more out of Fabian, and it could improve him as a fighter and him as a personality in the cage going forward. And I think it's the fight to do it. Look, if they can't see it in this fight and they can't see what to do in this fight, they'll never see it. So I'm backing him and I'm going for it. And, this maybe turned into a Fabian Edwards podcast there instead of a betting podcast. But anyway, -140 Fabian Edwards to win. I think he will let the hands go. I think he'll land the shots. I do think Lyoto Machida will tire later, and I think Fabian Edwards will win the fight, and it's minus 140. The next one I'm going for here is probably one that maybe the fans won't like too much, but look, I'm going for it anyway. I am going for Wendell Giacomo to win straight up at plus 230. Let me just check those odds again now, because that was last night I wrote this down. Let me just make sure. Plus 2. He's actually, sorry, with BetMGM right now, he's plus 260. So he's plus 260 right now with BetMGM, which is a very, very good price. Let me just check Fabian Edwards while I'm here as well. He's minus 135. So, 135, minus 140, still thereabouts. And obviously, Wendell Giacomo is fighting Paul Daley in what is his retirement fight here in London. We'll see about that one. I went back and I watched some Giacomo, Wendell. We'll go with Wendell. If anyone has watched the preview show, you probably know about that. I've spoken a little bit about him. I think he's a very good fighter and a very dangerous fighter, and a bad matchup, honestly, for Paul Daley. Look, I was going to say the one thing. Daley has some plus factors here, obviously. He has nearly 60 fights. He is fighting in his hometown. He has that experience. He has fought guys like Giacomo before and won, but he's also fought guys like Giacomo before and lost. But, he has some plus. But this by no means a walkover, and you can see that by the line. I think this line is grossly wrong. Grossly wrong. Now, Paul Daley could still win the fight, but I think with the skill level that Wendell has, I know he's 9-2 in his career. Look, so is Fabian Edwards, and I'm picking him too. I think he's very good. He throws lovely spinning shots. He throws lovely punches. I mentioned on the preview show, he's one of these guys. Some guys, they throw when they're very good, say, on the ground, or when they're, they've got great jiu-jitsu game or great wrestling game. They throw these big kicks kind of just to get taken down, maybe, or kind of just for the fight to land on the ground, and there isn't much oomph or anything on him. Verdum would be a guy like that. Jacare, although Jacare kind of got better towards the latter half of his career, and that guys win like that. Even Oliveira, to a certain extent, throws those ones. Now he is one that lands with oomph on him as well. But Wendell throws and he lands. He's throws kicks to the body, lovely leg kicks, wild with his striking, throws big right hands, and has a beautiful takedown. And he's one of those guys that he does it so he can get the fight to the ground, but he also does it so he can knock you out. And he has power. He has an array of different shots, and all of those shots in the fights I saw now, there's a much of him out there, but from what I did see, I was very impressed. Very impressed. He's a really good blast double, takes lads down in the middle of the cage. I'm really impressed with him. Now look, Paul Daley, we've seen before, he doesn't have the best takedown defense in the world, although he can take, especially if he gets you against the cage, pushes that head down, does the right things. We know about that big left hook. We know about the power in his hands. But I think he's going to find it very hard here to get through the kicks from the outside, the spinning kicks, and also to stop a takedown. If he's coming in, like, when you're a hooker in MMA, it's almost the worst thing to be when you're fighting against a wrestler, because you throw that big hook, he's going to dip down underneath it and get that double leg and take you down. And I feel like that's the way this fight is going to go. So, yeah, that's the bet I'm going for here. I'm going for Giacomo to win this one, and it is at plus 260. Right, let's go to my flyer bet, and then we will go for a bit of a review. My flyer bet here, look, it's another one of those ones. It's like I'm not 100% with this one, because it's one of those fights, and I'll tell you what it is first. I'm going for Ryan Spann to win by TKO KO at plus 400. And the reason I've gone for this is I think someone will get knocked out in this fight. That's the top and bottom maybe of this. The under 2.5 rounds is minus 280, so I suppose that tells a bit of a story in this one. The fight to go to decision is plus 330, plus 300 some places, and the fight doesn't go to decision is like minus 475. Now, if you like Cutelaba to win by TKO KO, it's only minus 150-ish, minus 135 as well. And Spann here is plus 400. Maybe you can get him a little bit bigger if these lines are moving. We'll see. Check out later in the week what BetMGM have up there to see his price. But he's around plus 400, plus 450 in some places. You can get him at that. I don't see this as a fight where Cutelaba is destined to get the finish. He's minus 220. Spann is plus 180. Yeah, I haven't watched a couple of Spann fights. I haven't watched a couple of Cutelaba fights. Look, there's a lot of these guys in this light heavyweight division that they win one, they lose one, they look good, they look terrible, they take a few shots, they can't take a few shots, they get knocked out, they win by knockout. And I feel like these two lads are in that mix. You know, Misha Serkinov is in there as well, Johnny Walker, Devin Clark. You know, there's a lot of them in that kind of mid-level mix there. Watching the Serkinov fight, like, you can see the power that Spann has, and that was only around this time last year. Obviously, Cutelaba has power as well. He can land big shots. He has a takedown in his arsenal as well, as we saw in one of his recent fights. Let me just look here. Which fight was it? It was the Khalil Roundtree fight, and that was recent. I say it was 3 years ago at this stage. But you know, he beat Devin Clark, who's been looking good by a decision, and he's been using his wrestling a little bit more. But I just think at plus 400, if the two of these lads come out there striking at the start, someone's getting knocked out, someone's getting finished. And I'd rather take the minus 110. I'd rather take, the plus 400 over the minus 110. And I don't, like, some fighters I believe in them. And Cutelaba is one of these fighters I do not believe in. I'll be honest with that. Now, not to say he won't win here, but we'll go to his next fight and he probably won't win if he does win here. You know, he's one of those guys. So, for him to get knocked out at plus 400... yeah, I'll take that. I'll have a bit of that every day, and I'll have it twice on Saturday as well. So, yeah, that's those are the 5 bets. I will recap them again at the end here. Right, let's go to a quick recap of the cards themselves. We'll look at Bellator first. Fabian Edwards here, minus 135 with BetMGM, plus 110 from Machida. I would definitely be going for Fabian there, but I wouldn't rule out Machida, and I think that price says a lot about the fight. The main event, Logan Storley, is minus 275 plus 220 for MVP. I don't know, lads. What do you think on this one? Because I've talked about this fight multiple times now this week, and it's a massive moment for MVP. You know, and the moment probably mightn't or shouldn't come into the fight, but it might. And he'll either rise to the moment or he'll fall at the moment. I think it's for the first 2 rounds, Logan Storley is going to struggle to catch him. Can MVP catch Logan Storley though? And I mean catch him with a strike. And I mean for Logan Storley to catch him with a takedown. If there was any confusion about that, which there probably shouldn't be in this fight. And that's to me the key here, because if Logan Storley can take down MVP once and he can take him down twice, I think one of those, that fight at that stage is very hard for MVP to win, because if he can find a way to get the fight to the ground, it's going to be a tough one for MVP. But that Bellator cage is big. Their big round cage helps MVP. I think it really works for him. And I wouldn't rule him out at plus 220. This is one of these fights I can't wait to sit back and watch it. I'm not having a bet in this fight. I'm not giving a bet in this fight. It's one of those ones I kind of want to sit back and watch and see what happens. The old school wrestler versus striker. I like MVP. I love his style. I like Logan Storley as well. He's fighting out of Sanford MMA, and I really believe in him. And look, I think Logan Storley would probably win, honestly, but who knows? And I can't wait for it. Daley and Giacomo, minus 350 for Daley, plus 260 for Gamma. We talked about that. Luke Traynor, talked to my guy Jake Smith, and he really believes in Luke Traynor, talking about his story this week as well. Minus 300 over Simon Biong, plus 230. Denise Keelholz, I think she's going to win this one. She's minus 275 plus 210 over at BetMGM. Is Kana Wanatabe. Elena Kalinudu is plus 120. Kate Jackson minus 145. Daniel Weichel, interesting there. He is the favourite, minus 150. Robert Whittaker is plus 125. Mark Limingjordan is the underdog against the minus 200. Oliver Inkamp Alfie Davis, as it starts to rain behind me, lads. It's getting very blustery here in Ireland. Alfie Davis is the favourite against Tim Wilde. I think that's a good bet, minus 125. I think he probably should be a bit of a bigger favourite there. Andrew Fisher is a big favourite, minus 190. Well, not big, a big favourite. I heard someone talking about Kurzmak this week. I actually haven't had a chance to go and watch him yet, but I saw someone saying this guy is legit and he's in with a chance. So plus 155, if you like that rumour I heard during the week that he's good. Charlie Ward, he's a massive favourite here, minus 550, and I think if he can keep it on the feet against Alan Carlos at plus 375, I think Charlie will knock him out. And Lashana Green in is the underdog, plus 200, minus 250 for Chira Pincho. The UFC, Cutelaba minus 225 over Spann, as we talked about. Spann is plus 185. Davey Grant, if you like him straight up, he's minus 300. Obviously, I've gone for decision. Louis Smolka is plus 240. Amanda Hebas, it's an interesting fight. Plus 150 over Caitlin Chukagan, minus 185. Look, I think Amanda Hebas is a better all-round fighter than Caitlin Chukagan, but Caitlin Chukagan makes life difficult for everyone. So, I don't know. That's one I'm avoiding. Frank Camacho, plus 105. Manuel Torres, minus 125. Alan Nascimento is plus 185. Jake Hadley, one of the top prospects coming out of the UK, minus 225, and I think he will win that. He's a very good fighter. Lee is minus 120, as we discussed, plus 100 for Araujo. Alan Patrick, plus 130. Michael Johnson, minus 155. Johnson's been fighting and training out of Sanford as well. I know he's been around Henry Hoof for a long time, but that's a very good gym. I'm looking forward to it. This Hill Genderober line, if I'm not mistaken, can I just click here and find out? Yeah, this one has changed over the last while in a big way. Angela Hill now is plus 145. Jandiroba is minus 175. When I looked at that last week, I think it was very close to being even, if I'm not mistaken. Now, can I just look here again and will it tell me? So yeah, Jandiroba has gone from minus 140 out to minus 175. So that's a big jump there. So it'll be interesting to see that. Angela Hill is never in a fight that's that much of a blowaway. So, she'll probably lose a decision and complain about it again, as always seems to happen. Chris Candelero, plus 190 against Tatsuo Tayara, minus 250. Petrosky, plus 280. Nick Massimov, minus 375. Massimov wasn't that good in his last one, and he's a big favourite going into that too. So, maybe that's I want to get away from there. And I see that's it. I think that's the end of it there. So, all right, everyone, I will recap my bets again here. Fabian Edwards, minus 140. And I'm these are all over the place now, so excuse me. I'll give 2 Bellator first. Wendell Giacomo, plus 260. Araujo versus Lee fight to be under 2.5 rounds is plus 240. Grant to win by decision, Davey Grant over Louis Smolka, plus 275. And my flyer of the week, plus 400, Ryan Spann to win by TKO or KO. Alright, everybody, my name is Sheehan for Sherdog.com, and that was the betting show. I'll see you all next time.